Here we use in the farm. Engine's running grand, but not generating any electricity. So I'm going to see if the brushes need changing. My first thought was to loosen these two screws and then pop this off. But as you can see, the bearing, the windings, your cap and your plugs, but no brushes. So I'm reckoning taking off these bolts here, 4 of them, and seeing if I can get into here. That's where I reckon the brushes will be. I looked up a schematic online and this looks pretty similar. Bolts, left this one on the top slack, and that one there doesn't come out fully. So I'm going to see if I can split the casing using a screwdriver very carefully. Hope not to damage it. It's coming loose a little. Bolt is just to stop it all falling apart if it does come suddenly off. I ended up needing 2 screwdrivers to do it. Tapped this one in, tapped this one in, using this soft face hammer here, and then I jammed them at the same time, backwards like this. You don't want to apply the pressure in just one area. You can kind of spread it. I think this is at a kind of a good way to load something. Like obviously 3 is better, but 2 is fine. So just to kind of split it. It does require a bit more force than you would think, but don't go smacking it like super hard. It's kind of, I think the approximation would be it's about the same force you'd kind of need to separate a gearbox from an engine. So not super heavy, but not going to slide off either. Began to feel a bit weird, so I just pulled off the back cover again, and the rotor, like the internal rotor here, seems to be hard onto the shaft. So the winding it looks like it's going to come off as one unit. I'm not sure how this is going to affect doing the brushes, but we shall proceed nonetheless. Pass here. I'm trying to split this using 2 of these, but seems to be a lot of resistance. I got that like going to break crunch noise. I also, I don't know if you can see it in there, but there doesn't appear to be any brushes. So I'm thinking the issue may be this guy. Doesn't have a brown stain on it, but it may have gone bad. The current dilemma I'm facing is this bearing here. It isn't turning there, but it is junk. So I'm going to replace that nonetheless, and I'll take these 4 screws off and see what I can see. The screws seems to have helped a little. It certainly split the casing. So just going to see how it goes from here. This is the scary part. An award moment here. Turns out what was holding me back was this mounting bolt here, which unsurprisingly caused the thing to not come off. So I'm going to slacken that off and see if that makes a difference. Bolted, and let's see if we can separate it. So it turns out not being physically bolted to the frame anymore makes it easier to get it off. So you can see this is a brushless design, which I was not expecting. So this bearing here, as you can hear, is junk. So I'm going to replace that. And I am guessing the issue is this guy. I will admit I have not done the research on this in any meaningful way. So the plan at the moment is replace ruined bearing and get a new one of these. And we'll see if that works. It may be something small, but I suspect it's probably that. Maybe. Or I could be wasting my time. We shall see. The easiest way is to just get it, cut this, and then just bang it off with a screwdriver. But today I'm just going to use the pullers, just, you know, to do it properly maybe. Underneath, just to stop the winding getting damaged. And to do this I'm holding this guy and then using that. You could hold the mechanism itself, but if it slips you could hurt yourself, so this may be a better way to do it. Bearing is off. It is well and truly gone. May not have strictly had to take this off, but I'm glad I did, because you know this bearing needed to change, so it's a little extra work, but probably worth it. So the plan is to replace these two here. Admittedly not the most thorough way to do some repair work, and may not work, but for the moment we're going to do it. There looks like a capacitor and bearing, so they're quite cheap components, so even if this fails they both probably need to be repaired or replaced. Like that cap does not look happier. We've got a new bearing. This is the old one, sounding not good, and a brand new one here. It's if you can see that there, it's a 6203-C-2Z3 C3. I've also got a new capacitor. As I said, I'm not 100% sure on the repair that we're performing here, but you can see the old capacitor has an issue. You can see the cap there is deformed, so there's no stain on it and it hasn't exploded, but I'm guessing it's bad. The markings in these are quite difficult to read, but under there's a thing here. You probably won't be able to see it, but it's rated at 10 microfarad. And according to the guys at the electrical supply store, you can go up a little bit, but not down. So they didn't have a 10 in stock, but they did have a 12.5. So this is the guy I've got. It's a 12.5 microfarad. It's European made. It's built in Romania, and it has this nut in the top that we're going to have to cut off. But first, we're going to fit the bearing. We're first gonna clean it. The bearing race is clean, or the shaft is clean. I'm gonna put a light bit of, this is bike oil, so the tiniest drop. That's way too much. Just a smither of that. And we leave the bearing packaged until it's ready to go, which it is now. To it, what we're going to use is a hammer with a ball tip on it. When we're striking it, we're going to do it very lightly, and we're going to strike the interior, not the exterior, because we don't want to damage the bearings themselves. So I'm just going to tap that on now. The bearing was a little bit tighter to get on than I'd hoped, so I used a 15mm socket to put it on, and just tapped it with a hammer gently. So the bearing itself is nice and smooth. Definitely an improvement over this guy. And now I'm going to do the remainder of the assembly. I wanted to put this unit on first and then put these bolts in afterwards, but I'm going to put these in first in case we damage any of the windings. They're just attached over here. Bring them in all the way, just tighten them to snug first, and then do them tight, 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 so you get an even distribution. I know. Have the engine tilted back a little. Just tilting it in more. That went in a lot easier than it came out. Ooh. I'm gonna just leave that in place and figure out how to mount in the bearing. After much messing around, this does not want to line up no matter what angle. So I'm going to slacken off these guys, then connect two of these, and line this up while tensioning these down. So a bit more messing, but it should be okay, hopefully. I'm going to pop in two bolts up here. And so is this one down here. Can't really see it. So these are very slack. And now I'm going to lift this guy back very, very gently. It's very important not to damage anything. There's a winding connection in here, and if that breaks, this is a very expensive piece of scrap metal. Back, and then I can locate the bearing. So that is located. I'm and then I can proceed to tightening these 4 fasteners there. Back flat again. So now I'm going to torque these down very carefully in a sort of this pattern. Bottom cover on, so I'm going to just reattach the bottom mount. Okay, but the bolt is sort of captive in there, so you kind of swing this guy just with your index finger and your thumb and we'll get in. Down. Now I'm going to tighten these down in the same manner. Capacitor doesn't look like I'll have space for the protective cover, but it also looks like I don't have to trim off this, which is good. Is trim off these extra lugs because I reckon they could arc. Now with any luck it may work, which would be nice. So, it's all working and fixed. Thanks for watching, and I hope this is helpful.